My name's Michael Jones. I'm the Chief Accounting Officer here at IMTT. I born and raised here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Right now, I live in Lakeview with my wife, Kara, and our two children, Emerson and Boeing. Before coming here to IMTT, where I've been for the last 3 years, I spent about 10 years at Ernst & Young, which is where I started my career after graduate school. While I was at Ernst & Young, there was actually 2 years that I was an adjunct professor at Tulane and taught accounting classes there. When I was a student at that same business school, call it 6 or 7 years prior to that, absolutely never thought that was something I would be doing. I wouldn't have necessarily described myself as a model student. I did enough to get by and to be successful ultimately. But, at the end of the day, as my career evolved and life evolved, an opportunity to give back and to do that and to gain that experience. I played a decent amount of golf for having 2 young children. I wish I played a little bit more, but I like to get out there. I am good on my good holes and bad on my bad holes. If I eliminate the doubles, my game would be a lot stronger. I need to work on my short game a little bit, but that's something that I love to do. Love to cook as well. Again, having 2 young children, I'm doing that less than I was before, but I love nothing more than on the weekend having a big, long cook, smoking something on the grill, or doing something that takes 10 to 12 hours and hoping it comes out successful. Definitely something I enjoy doing on the weekends. From a career perspective, I think one of the biggest accomplishments and things that I'm most proud of is what we've been able to do with the accounting and finance team here at IMTT. I came on board about 3 years ago, and since then we spent a lot of time thinking about the correct composition of the team, how we have the team set up, who does what and what roles people are in that allow for both personal and professional growth for the team, but also allow us to be the most efficient that we can be, because at the end of the day, the accounting function largely is a back office function that serves our terminals where our actual operations are taking place. Over the 3 years, we've done a lot of positive things to get that structure in a good place that allows us to be as efficient as we can be and give the best results to the ultimate stakeholders, which are our terminal operations folks. Part of that is also growing our systems and scale. We recently implemented a new ERP system, Workday, which was a very, very heavy lift for the team, and I think was something that ultimately was very successful and has gotten us to a place we need to be to move forward. One of the biggest challenges I've had from a career perspective is the implementation of the new ERP system, Workday, which we just did here at IMTT. It was about a year-long project from an actual, boots on the ground working on the implementation. If you count the amount of time dedicated to researching the product and doing sort of the front-end diligence that we need to do, is more like a 2-year project. When we first started this process, you would talk to people in the local community that may have been through a similar experience with the system implementation. And everyone always told me to, brace for impact. I would somewhat roll my eyes and think it can't be that bad, right? And then once you actually get into it, you realize it's definitely a very heavy lift. There's a lot of work going on. Currently, you have to make a lot of decisions quickly to keep the project on track, to make sure that the ultimate design of the system that we're going for is correct. All that leads to a very taxing process over a year-long project like this. I think we were able to overcome it through great collaboration as a team across all departments within IMTT. This touched finance, HR, and IT very specifically, but also involved folks from our terminal operations, involved the executive management team providing their guidance and their oversight, the board of directors even. So we were able to come together as a team, and this project is how we got introduced to Prime. Prime was able to help us achieve our goal at the end of the day. As we stand now, it was a very successful implementation and we're in a good spot. My team, the accounting team, was doing work in somewhere between 12 and 18 different financial systems that now takes place in one. That really speaks to how heavy of a lift it was from our team. At the end of the day, we're in a very good spot and in a position for growth and to move forward. Prime assisted us across the whole ERP implementation. The HR side of the implementation was a little bit ahead of the finance side. So I got the sneak peek into Prime before I made the decision to bring them all to help us on the finance side. The HR team at IMTT had nothing but rave reviews for the Prime team. And as I slowly started to integrate myself with Natalie and Natalie's team, I could see firsthand why that was the case. There was a just evident commitment to the success of the project that the Prime team exemplified, which is not always the case for a consultant. You could definitely tell they cared and wanted to do whatever they had to make the project successful. There was a strong commitment to getting into the nitty-gritty, figuring out the systems and where they could add their expertise and who from the team got put into what situation. All of that displayed a very strong commitment to the project, which is what attracted me to bring them in on the finance side as well. My expectations were not only met, but exceeded. I think Prime was a very integral part into getting this project off successfully from us. The scope started as a project management scope and really took on a trusted business advisor angle to it. Natalie and team were very integral into what ultimately ended up being the behind the scene bones of the system setup, which was very integral to us getting it off the ground and getting it successful. The uniqueness that Prime brings to the table is that the team has a very in-depth and broad range of experience in positions generally similar to the positions that people they would be providing consulting and advisory services to are currently in. It's not a group of career consultants. It's people that have been in similar positions to the position that you, as someone engaging Prime, might find yourself in, which I think really allows them to use their real life experiences to provide good service and bring fresh ideas to the table and allow for very strong collaboration, because a lot of the team has been in your shoes before and knows the pain points and decision points that you're facing. And so I think that really highlights to me one of the key strengths, a very strong business acumen. I've been very impressed with Natalie and the whole team's ability to highlight their experiences and show how they've been in a situation you've been in and to give you good advice and to say, hey, this is something we've seen before. This is how we handled it. This is how you should handle it, right? That allows you to develop a collaborative relationship and trust in the advice that they're giving and trust that they've been around the block before and not just feeding you some buzzwords and some consultant speak. I think another strength that Prime brings to the table is an overall goal of success. I think that was very evident in everything that Natalie and the team do. I was very impressed with the ownership that they took of the project. It wasn't just clocking hours to make a paycheck. They were very invested in our success, a very strong commitment to deadlines and working overtime to make sure that we hit our deadlines. That really had a ripple effect throughout the whole project because it allowed for the team to truly work collaboratively and allowed for a trust across the entire project team that I think really allowed for some serious success in the project. And then the last strength I'll highlight is a real commercial approach to the consulting relationship. Natalie and team were very transparent with the hours that they were spending on task. And if they thought something was potentially taking longer than maybe we thought it would on the front end, they were very communicative of that before the work got started. And that allowed us to have a very trusting relationship with them and allowed for the scope of the project to really evolve positively over the year-long project. There were no surprises from my perspective and from the leadership team perspective on costs or anything like that, which is always very welcomed in a consulting relationship. I think the key point to consider anytime you're considering any sort of consulting relationship is making sure there's a clearly defined scope on the front end, making sure the ask, while it can have some open-endedness, possibility for evolution, at least has a good baseline to allow everyone to go into the project knowing the end goals and objectives. That allows everyone to get off on a good foot and allows the project to start off successfully. And then as scopes may evolve, keeping clear, open lines of communication throughout the whole project, I think that is certainly something beneficial to any project success, making sure those lines are open and go both ways and are collaborative. And I think just making sure that you find a consultant that fits the goals and objectives you have as a company, as long as that consultant shares the same overall goals and views of success that you do, you'll be in a position where the project's successful. I think a company should consider Prime because of their overall commitment to the project's success. This was very evident through Natalie and her team always being available to us whenever we had questions or needs came up. There was always open lines of communication, and they were constantly displaying a ability to get in the weeds and to problem solve, and sometimes to independently problem solve, which from my perspective is definitely a very welcomed approach from a consultant. There were certain decision points that Natalie and team trusted in their ability to make the decisions to keep the projects moving forward. Those were always very welcome. Because we had developed such a trusting relationship, we were able to make sure the project stayed on track and the design stayed how we wanted it to be. I can't recommend Prime enough. It vastly exceeded my expectations. We would not have been able to achieve the end goal of the project, hitting our go live date, without their assistance and their strong input into the overall project.